Do you think Mahito could have rivaled any of the big boys like Gojo, Sukuna, or Kenjaku if he was kept alive? This is actually something I have genuinely wanted to talk about a few times now, but I wanted to put a whole dedicated video to this. So this is a member video, but this is a member video specifically for that question. So congratulations on being the first of your kind. But I wanted to put this video together for this topic specifically because, again, it's a theory I've had cooking up in the little noggin here for over a fucking minute now. Every time Mahito was on screen, you knew something bad was going to happen. This dude was a special grade disaster case with an emphasis on the disaster. He was born from the negativity of humans and loved being a fucking menace. But he was young. Nanami, after his first encounter with Mahito, mentioned how he's basically just a child. He's a kid. Having only been around for a couple of months, Mahito was able to compete and pressure Nanami in a 1v1, forcing Nanami to use his overtime. Mahito's ability to manipulate his own soul and others is key to his growth and how strong he got and why he did it so fucking quickly as well. Every fight we see him in, he learns something new about himself and his powers, and throughout his fight with Nanami and Yuji, he slowly learns the essence of his own soul, allowing him to achieve a domain expansion, albeit he did this after taking the most brutal beating. But he did it regardless, and this domain expansion caught Nanami, and had it not been for Yuji breaking into this barrier, Nanami would have likely died way earlier in the series at this point. As soon as Yuji broke into this barrier, Sukuna and Mahito come face to face, with Sukuna telling him, "Don't you dare ever touch my soul ever again," and then slicing him. But unfortunately for Mahito, as strong as he could have gotten in this series, his weakness is something that Yuji was perfect in. It was someone with multiple souls. For example, Yuji at this point in the series was hosting Sukuna, and sadly for Mahito, Sukuna just happened to be the previous big dick of the fucking Heian era, and would more than happily fucking slap Mahito up and down just for the fun of it. After this fight though, Mahito has a few more encounters that grow his power just a little bit more, each and every another encounter. His fight with Yuji is where we see the most growth, however, and in fact we see a lot of growth from Yuji as well and Mahito throughout this whole fight here. The trouble with Mahito's fight against Yuji is, as I said previously, Yuji, having been the host of Sukuna, is literally the perfect opponent for him, and I believe if Yuji wasn't in Shibuya for whatever reason, an alternate reality of what ifs here, Mahito would have rolled through a lot of the cast within Jujutsu Kaisen. So I'm going to give you my evidence as for the reasoning as to why I think Mahito would be closing in on his own at one moment had he survived Shibuya, had he not been absorbed and blasted out via Uzumaki via Kenjaku. I think he genuinely would be closing in on that moment right about now. So here's my examples. The first here is him learning his domain expansion after just a few short months of basically existing. As Nanami said, and as we all know, a domain expansion is the literal pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery. For a sorcerer to expand their domain onto the world, it shows incredible prowess in not only innate talent, but also their understanding of their own soul, as it's also been theorized that people who are aware of their soul have some of the best domains, and I'll use Gojo and Sukuna and even Kenjaku for these examples, something that I've talked about a lot of times on this channel now, how I feel like these three all have a strong connection with the soul and how their domains all reflect that. Gojo having a feat of 0.2 domain, or arguably one of the greatest domains because of his abilities, Sukuna having an open barrier domain, and Kenjaku also having an open barrier domain, and then Mahito following suit, actually being able to copy Gojo's 0.2 second domain. And Mahito managed to do all of this after a few short months of existing, and later on with Shibuya, he was able to fully copy Gojo's aforementioned 0.2 second domain expansion, and was not only able to survive this whole thing here, but was able to come around shortly after, and then was able to replicate this exact same feat in an effort to separate Yuji from Todo during their fight. And not only this, but Mahito was able to connect the activation of his case technique as well as his domain expansion into one seamless activation. And while this happened, we ended up coming face to face with Sukuna, and he told Sukuna, he didn't ask, he didn't beg, he told Sukuna to shut up and watch because he was going to kill Yuji before he could even do anything. And I want to point out here is that Mahito actually uses 4 hands for his domain expansion hand seals, which is something I mentioned in a previous review here, how we'd learned how Gojo didn't skip any steps for firing the hollow purple. And a theory that Plank brought up in my Discord was that Gojo is the only one in the series that uses 1 hand for his domain expansion. Everyone else uses 2. And I theorized that Sukuna used to have 4 arms, and maybe the more hand seals used for a domain expansion increases that said power. Mahito could be in a prime example of this, considering how fast he learned it and how quickly he learned 0.2 second domain. I feel if he carried on, it was only a matter of time before he learned an open barrier domain, a truly divine technique similar to Sukuna and Kenjaku. The fact that this man was not only able to fully realize his innate domain and his domain expansion, but he was also able to use his domain in this incredibly efficient way, which up until this point we'd only seen Gojo fucking Satoru use, I think in and of itself is an insanely impressive feat. Literally right after this, by the way, he managed to hit Todo with a black flash, and then not long after this his technique is recovered and he was ready to use right again. Granted, yes, Yuji did counter with his own black flash during this fight, but the fact that Mahito managed to pull this off all within the short period of time while he was alive is a truly incredible feat. And it didn't even stop there. Throughout this fight, he keeps growing and growing and getting more powerful. Mahito managed to fully evolve and found the true essence of his soul and finally morphed into his final form, or at least a further advanced form. It's possible that he had more progression to make, who knows, but he morphed from his regular human / curse hybrid form into the instant spirit body of distorted killing, which is a mouthful of a fucking name. Gege Akatami, why did you write the whole ass Bible just to give this dude's new body a name? But regardless, this form in and of itself caused Yuji the most trouble. At the start of this fight, Mahito even says himself that he's literally just getting started, and once he kills Yuji, he will be truly born again. And you could call these feats absolutely worthless in the face of, yeah, he ended up being defeated by Yuji and then absorbed by Kenjaku, and that's fine. You'd be totally fair to say that. That's absolutely fine. But something I will point out to you is something that Ryu said to Yuta in the Culling Games just after their fight, is that he sees what happens when sorcerers have surpassed the horizon, and it's overwhelming aggression that attacks everything like a calamity. Now, one thing Mahito was known for in his fights was his aggression, to the point where multiple times in Shibuya he ends up getting hit a few times during his fight with Yuji and Todo here because he got over aggressive. And the second point is that Mahito really was like a fucking calamity. Every time this dude appeared on the panels, you knew something bad was gonna happen. The same way for Sukuna. Every time Sukuna was on the panels, you know something bad's gonna happen, and it was the exact same way vice versa for Mahito. He was also the only other person to stand inside Sukuna's domain and give that man some shit talk. I mean, what the fuck? The disrespect and the self-belief, confidence that this dude had in himself, he was, as far as I'm concerned, he was approaching it. And then you also have to have the complete and utter disregard for everything and everyone else. As I just mentioned, he stood inside Sukuna's innate domain and told him to shut up and watch. The only other person I think we've ever seen do that successfully is Gojo. I mean, it's crazy to see this. But another point on Mahito's complete and utter disregard for everything is when he left Kenjaku and Jogo in order to go and chase down Yuji, and he was trying to make it a game with Jogo and who would find Yuji first. He had a complete and utter disregard for the entirety of the situation and the plan that the disaster cases and Kenjaku had put together. He had no care in the world about this. So yes, I think if Mahito had survived his fight with Yuji, I think he would be close to hitting his own Honored One moment right now. His technique overall and his attitude fit all the requirements that are coupled with this whole description of the Honored One, and then on top of all this, his technique and his just attitude, it just fits everything. And then the explosive growth that he had, yeah, I think Mahito could have easily been joining the ranks of Honored One with a little bit more time with my opinion here. But that is everything from me. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree. Do you think Mahito would have been an absolute fucking menace if he was to still be alive within the storyline right now, or do you think he's still just fodder and everyone just fucking no diffs him? Anyway, that's everything from me. If you haven't already, please be sure to like the video, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe if you enjoy it here. We do manga content all the time, and as always, I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, peace.